For nearly a decade, a ruthless predator roamed the streets of Toronto, hiding in plain sight. His victims vanished without a trace, and for years, no one suspected a thing. But when the truth finally emerged, it sent shockwaves across Canada. This is the terrifying story of Bruce McArthur, Toronto's most feared serial killer. A man who blended into society so well that even those closest to him had no idea what he was capable of. A man who preyed on vulnerable victims, carrying out his gruesome crimes right under the noses of police. How does a mild-mannered landscaper turn into one of Canada's most prolific murderers? And how did he evade authorities for so long? Stay with me till the end because this case is filled with shocking twists, horrifying discoveries, and a final police raid that revealed the unimaginable. Before we dive in, don't forget to like this video, subscribe, and hit the notification bell, because you won't want to miss our next true crime case. And let us know in the comments, what do you think should have been done to stop him sooner? The disappearances. It started quietly. A missing person here, a sudden disappearance there. The victims all had one thing in common: they were part of Toronto's LGBTQ+ community, specifically men of Middle Eastern or South Asian descent. At first, police didn't connect the cases. In fact, for years, they dismissed them as unrelated disappearances. Some believed the men had simply moved away, while others assumed they had left voluntarily. But the truth? It was far more sinister. Between 2010 and 2017, several men vanished under eerily similar circumstances. Their families and friends were desperate for answers, but law enforcement had few leads. These weren't just random individuals, they were men with families, loved ones, and lives they had suddenly left behind. Despite their efforts, police struggled to make progress. Toronto's LGBTQ+ community grew increasingly frustrated. Why weren't authorities doing more? Were they ignoring these cases because of the victims' backgrounds? Then, in 2012, the situation took a chilling turn. The disappearances became so frequent that police launched an official investigation, Project Houston, to determine if there was a serial killer on the loose. But what they didn't realize was that the man they were looking for was hiding in plain sight, right under their noses. Stay with me, because things are about to take a dark and disturbing turn. Project Houston, a failed investigation. By 2012, the growing number of disappearances in Toronto's LGBTQ+ community could no longer be ignored. Under pressure, authorities launched Project Houston, an investigation aimed at finding out what happened to three missing men, Skandaraj Navratnam, Abdulbasir Faizi, and Majid Kayhan. Police scoured phone records, checked surveillance footage, and interviewed anyone who had last seen them. But no bodies were found. No crime scenes. No direct evidence of foul play. It was as if they had simply vanished into thin air. Then, a lead emerged. Investigators linked one of the missing men, Skandaraj Navratnam, to an older man he had been romantically involved with. That man was Bruce McArthur. But despite this connection, police found no hard evidence tying McArthur to the disappearances. In 2014, after 2 years of searching, Project Houston was shut down. The case went cold. And Bruce McArthur? He remained free. But the disappearances weren't over. Between 2015 and 2017, more men vanished. The LGBTQ+ community was terrified. How could men keep going missing with no answers? Then, in 2017, a breakthrough. Project Prism was launched. This time, police would uncover the terrifying truth. And what they found would shock the entire country. Project Prism, the net closes in. By 2017, the disappearances had reached a boiling point. More men had gone missing under eerily similar circumstances, Salim Eason in April, and Andrew Kinsman in June. Unlike the earlier cases, Andrew Kinsman's disappearance triggered immediate alarm. He was well known in the LGBTQ+ community and a respected activist. Friends knew he wouldn't just vanish without telling someone. Investigators dug into his personal life, searching for clues. That's when they discovered something chilling. On the very last day Andrew was seen alive, he had made one final note in his calendar. It was short. Just a name, Bruce. The clue was small, but it was enough to put Bruce McArthur back on police radar. This time, they would not let him slip away. Detectives launched Project Prism, a new investigation dedicated to finding out what happened to Ethan, Kinsman, and other missing men. They combed through surveillance footage, phone records, and financial transactions, building a case piece by piece. Then, they made a horrifying discovery. Bruce McArthur's name wasn't just connected to Kinsman. He had been in contact with multiple victims before their disappearances. He wasn't just a person of interest anymore. He was their prime suspect. But investigators needed proof, solid proof, before they could make an arrest. So, they put McArthur under 24-hour surveillance. And what they caught next would change everything. The horrifying discovery. On January 18, 2018, police were watching Bruce McArthur closely. Every move he made was monitored. But then, something happened that forced them to act immediately. McArthur was seen bringing a young man into his apartment. The man was someone police had already identified as a potential future victim. He had agreed to meet McArthur, unaware of the danger he was in. Police couldn't wait any longer. They stormed McArthur's apartment. What they found inside was beyond disturbing. The man was discovered tied to a bed, restrained, but still alive. Police had arrived just in time. McArthur was arrested on the spot. But what they found next would reveal just how deeply horrifying his crimes were. A killer's secret graveyard. As police searched McArthur's belongings, they made a gruesome discovery, a hidden file on his computer containing photos of his victims. Even more shocking. Some of these images showed the men after they had been murdered. But where were the bodies? Investigators began searching McArthur's personal and professional life. He was a self-employed landscaper, often working in private residences. Then, they made a horrifying realization. McArthur's clients often allowed him to store tools and supplies in their backyards. Could he have been hiding bodies in plain sight? Police began searching a property where McArthur frequently worked. As they dug through the soil, they unearthed what no one ever expected to find. Human remains. One body. Then another. And another. By the time the search was complete, authorities had found the remains of 8 men, buried in large planters across multiple properties. Bruce McArthur had been disposing of his victims right under everyone's noses. The chilling confession. With the discovery of human remains, the evidence against Bruce McArthur was overwhelming. But investigators needed to piece together the full extent of his crimes. How long had he been killing? How many victims were there? And why? During interrogations, McArthur remained disturbingly calm and composed. He refused to confess, offering little more than short, calculated answers. He acted like an old man who had simply been caught in an unfortunate misunderstanding. But police weren't buying it. They uncovered a pattern. McArthur had been luring his victims through dating apps, primarily targeting vulnerable men from marginalized communities. Many of them were immigrants or people with few family ties in Canada, making their disappearances easier to go unnoticed. His method. He would gain their trust, invite them to his apartment, and then brutally murder them. But one question haunted detectives the most: how many had there really been? McArthur was charged with 8 counts of first-degree murder, but investigators feared there were more victims. Could this be Canada's most prolific serial killer? The shocking sentencing. In 2019, Bruce McArthur pleaded guilty to all 8 murders. The details presented in court were gruesome. McArthur had strangled his victims, staged their bodies for photographs, and even kept souvenirs from their remains. He showed no emotion as the judge sentenced him to life in prison with no chance of parole for 25 years. For many, justice had been served. But questions still lingered. Did McArthur kill more than 8 men? Police believe it's likely. Will we ever know the full truth? Maybe not. But one thing is certain: Bruce McArthur will never walk free again.